This morning, is President Trump on the verge of essentially paying himself $230 million in taxpayer monies? All kinds of ethical questions are being raised after the president appeared to confirm a New York Times report that he's seeking damages from his own Justice Department over past investigations involving himself. Specifically, Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian election interference and the probe into the classified documents the FBI seized from Mar-a-Lago. CNN asked the president about that $230 million figure, and he says that it could be accurate, but he didn't know all the specifics.
I don't know what the numbers are. I don't even talk to them about it. All I know is that they would owe me a lot of money, but I'm not looking for money. I'd give it to charity. Now, with the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes a decision, right? And, that decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself.
Joining me now is CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig. Elie, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Does the president have any legitimate grounds for this claim, saying, this is about damages for someone who went through these investigations and had to pay their lawyers, obviously?
Well, Sarah, ordinarily, any person who gets charged by the Justice Department can make one of these claims, can eventually file a lawsuit. However, the legal bar is very high here. It's not enough to show that you were, for example, investigated but not charged, as Trump was with respect to 2016 election interference. It's not even enough to show that you were charged but not convicted, as with the two indictments against Donald Trump. You have to show something more. You have to show a higher level of ill intent or malice by the U.S. government. That's a really high bar to meet. Not at all clear Trump could meet that. But more to the point, Sarah, there are massive, enormous conflicts of interest here. As Donald Trump said, it's strange to be in a position where you're deciding whether to pay yourself. The key decision makers at the Justice Department are Trump's own defense lawyers, Todd Blanche, or this guy Stanley Woodward, who represented one of Trump's co-defendants in the Mar-a-Lago criminal case. So we've got a massive, I believe, intractable conflict of interest problem here.
The Trump administration is also asking for money because of the claims that the FBI violated his privacy for searching Mar-a-Lago for those classified documents. But the FBI did find classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Does that matter at all?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a perfect example of why it's really hard to win on these cases. I mean, Trump's got nothing on that aspect of his claim. First of all, that search of Mar-a-Lago was reviewed and authorized in advance by a federal judge. And second of all, the FBI and Justice Department found the evidence they were looking for. They said in their application, we're looking for classified documents. Guess what they found? Tons of classified documents. So that's a great example of why it's really difficult to win on these claims, and especially in some of the claims that Donald Trump is claiming he's going to bring.
I'm just curious if you expect Todd Blanche, for example, to recuse himself. Would that be the expectation if this goes forward?
Well, he 100% should. It would be the easiest recusal decision in the Justice Department history. I mean, he's the person who represented Donald Trump in Donald Trump's private capacity in these criminal cases. But important to keep in mind, Sarah, even if he does recuse, even if Stanley Woodward, the other guy who represented Walt Nauta, recuses, this decision will fall to somebody in the Justice Department. And you can bet that person will be well aware that the person making the claim is the President of the United States, and that his bosses at the Justice Department, including Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi, have all done work privately for Donald Trump before and are all loyalists to Donald Trump. So that conflict of interest is almost impossible to cure, in my view.
All right, Elie Honig, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you for breaking that all down for us.
Joining me now, CNN senior political commentator David Urban. He's a former Trump campaign advisor. CNN senior political commentator and former Republican congressman from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger, and former federal prosecutor Jeff Toobin. Jeff, I mean, this is allowed. Or is it?
There is such a thing as filing claims against the government for malicious prosecution. It's very rare. The Times story is a great story, but it doesn't exactly say how they're doing it. There's something called the Federal Tort Claims Act. There's something called the Hyde Amendment that allows you to sue if you were the subject of like really a bad faith prosecution.
Like the government knew it wasn't true, but they're going after you anyway.
Exactly. There have been very few successful claims under those laws in these circumstances. But obviously, in all of those claims, the defendant is the Justice Department. Here you have the president suing the Justice Department, which of course is run by his appointees, including people who represented him in these cases. So the conflict of interest is just so obvious and egregious. I don't think there would be any way it could be worked out in an ethical way.
David, I mean, the president kind of gave a head nod to this. I mean, the timing of this, certainly, it does, you know, there's a shutdown. People are struggling. Does the president deserve $230 million of taxpayer money?
Yeah, Anderson, listen, clearly, I don't think so. You know, as Jeff points out, there is a process for this. It's my understanding this case was filed, the process had begun several years ago. So I think the timing is something that's, you know, just kind of percolating up now by the story's kind of making its way to the top. But, you know, does Donald Trump deserve $230 million for what Comey and the previous administration did in the Russia kind of collusion case? You know, if he wasn't president and he was, you know, damaged somehow, you know, he's pretty pissed about it, and so are tons of other people who got caught up in that, knowing full well that, you know, a lot of people believe that full well that there was no collusion, everything was made up. You know, the FISA warrants were, you know, invalid. I mean, there's so many problems with it that, as Jeff says, malicious prosecution doesn't even kind of go there. So I think Donald Trump is rightfully upset about that, but does he deserve $230 million of taxpayer dollars? I don't think anyone would say so.
I mean, Congressman, it is kind of remarkable the people who will ultimately decide whether this payment is approved are the president's own top appointees at the Justice Department. I mean, his own personal attorney in one case and Walt Nauda's personal attorney. Do you see any scenario in which he doesn't get this money?
Well, I mean, if he makes a decision that he's going to give it up, then yeah, I guess that would be the case. If he does end up getting the money, I mean, my goodness. And here's the thing. If this ends up happening, and I think actually before this decision is made, every GOP member of Congress and the Senate has to be asked what they think about that. They have oversight into money. I mean, they're the ones that spend money. Ask what they think about that. They cannot be allowed to obfuscate. They just need to be clear. Yes, he deserves it, or no, he doesn't, like David was very clear about. And by the way, they've been out for 4 weeks. No town halls. They should have town halls. But yeah, I think if it happens, it's just going to be one of the things that adds to the story of the grift out of the White House. A $400 million jet that the taxpayers are going to pay upwards of $1 billion to upgrade, that Donald Trump takes with him. And it's owned by the Trump Library. That doesn't mean it hangs in the library. He still gets to fly through the library. I think the DOJ should be spending some time right now actually releasing the Epstein files, which Donald Trump could release right now if he chose, and less on this.
I'd forgotten that detail about the jet, that it belongs to the library, but he gets to fly it. It's not like the Reagan plane that actually sat in the library. It's kind of an amazing thing. It's like a moving library.
Anderson, maybe ask Jeff Toobin, is the statute run on this? How long can Trump sue after he's president?
Well, it depends on what he's suing about. I mean, that's why this is all a little vague. I think for many federal claims, it's only a 2-year statute of limitations. So anything regarding the Mueller investigation, unless it was filed 2 years after the end of the Mueller investigation, it would be too late. But since we're talking about the legal aspects of this, there's a really sort of pernicious part of all this. Let's say there's some sort of settlement. The Justice Department pays Donald Trump